Tonight, with Parliament divided over a minority motion asking for a rejection of the constitutional instrument empowering the EC to compile a new voters register, the NDC has been offering what they claim to be evidence pointing to a conspiracy to disenfranchise 10 million voters.
The grand criminal collusion between the Electoral Commission, the National Identification Authority, and the ruling New Patriotic Party to disenfranchise over 10 million eligible voters, mostly in NDC strongholds.
So will the party consider taking their case to the courts?
I'm getting very, very reluctant with the court, but I'm beginning to look back with some disappointment that can we rely on this independent adjudicator.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, is also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the nation builder, and Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. Tonight, there is deep division in Parliament as the minority files a motion asking for the House to reject the constitutional instrument that will empower the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register. We will have more on that unfolding story, but as the NDC MPs take the fight against the new voters register to Parliament, the party itself has once more taken its case to the public, presenting what it says is evidence to show a conspiracy to disenfranchise as many as 10 million voters, mostly in NDC strongholds. Listen to Director of Elections for the NDC, Elvis Efie Ankra, addressing a news conference this afternoon.
Less than 2 million people have passports. Most of them have used the passports as bidder documents for NIA cards. And out of the estimated population of 18 million, only 6.5 million of those 18 and above have been issued with cards. And this we see as part of the grand conspiracy between the EC, NIA, and the ruling MPP to disenfranchise over 10 million eligible voters, mostly in NDC strongholds. When we talk about registration, we are not talking in the context of something that we don't know. It's been happening, and we all know what happens when it's time for registration, especially when it borders on electoral matters. So they couldn't dispute our claim, and they are relying on same for the voter registration exercise they intend to undertake next month, they say, that's easy, and which will compel over 93% of eligible voters in these two regions, which are strongholds of the NDC. So take note of that, because when we say, they say, where is the conspiracy? So by some strange, accidental, the strongholds of the NDC, you have a situation where 93% of eligible voters in these two regions will not have access to their cards, and they have to resort to the secondary identification method as for vouching as the norm rather than the exception. Is it fair? Is it right? Are you creating a level playing field? This democracy that we've toiled for, is that how we want to build and sustain it? The NIA again has confirmed our position that the snail pace of Ghana card registration exercise is largely incomplete, and that they are now waiting for the COVID-19 situation in the country to subside so they can embark on a mop-up and card distribution exercise in some regions. The big question, therefore, is why will Jim Mensah-led EC rely on an identification card, Ghana card, whose issuance is largely incomplete and fraught with several anomalies and demographic disparities? Why? Why is the Jim Mensah-led EC excluding from the list of registration requirements under the proposed CI their own widely available and acceptable voters ID card, and rather including the Ghana card, which is currently possessed by just about 6.5 million Ghanaians who are 18 years and above?
Now, on that very controversial constitutional instrument, which, by the way, is still gathering the days in Parliament, set to mature in less than 10 days, if you count from the beginning. And now we know the committee is still yet to present its report to the House. We'll be delving into that because that's a subject of some controversy in Parliament already. On that particular controversy as well, the NDC today denied claims by the Electoral Commission that they were ever consulted. In fact, they also challenged the same assertions made by the MPP, which had earlier indicated that the EC had raised this at an IPAC meeting.
The issue of lack of consultations with political parties on the proposed CI before it was laid in Parliament is something that cannot be overlooked. The claim, and very recent claim, by the MPP that the proposed CI was discussed at the 25th March IPAC meeting is a concocted barefaced lie, as the matter was neither on the agenda, and I think we have a copy of the agenda. The matter was neither on the agenda of the said IPAC meeting, nor captured in the records of the said meeting as has been discussed. In any case, and this is what makes it most ridiculous and preposterous, the proposed CI was laid in Parliament on the 17th of March 2020, 8 clear days before the 25th of March 2020 IPAC meeting in question. So how then do you say that a CI that has already been laid in Parliament was discussed at the subsequent IPAC meeting? Complete falsehood, and a very unintelligent one at that.
So the key question that emerges is, as you've heard, the NDC has said quite categorically often that they will employ all legitimate means to resist the compilation of a new voters register. So last night on the PM Express, I spoke to the minority leader Harun Edrisu, and I asked him a direct question. The gamut of things that they plan to do to resist the voters register, will they consider taking their case in the courts? Listen to his answer.
There are citizens of Ghana, elders, senior citizens who are concerned. I'm sure you are not driving towards mobocracy or mob rule, that because they have the majority, they can, even in the face of the law, deal and dismiss, eliminate the concerns legitimately and lawfully raised.
Is the courts an option for you as you pursue this matter, especially on the back of the...
I'm getting very, very reluctant with the court. I am not satisfied with the ruling of the Supreme Court in the Dr. Ayeni Martin Amidu case. And you know what the Supreme Court have simply said? Article 190 of the Constitution irrelevant. Your granddie, your grandmother, grandfather, you can constitute them tomorrow and say, come and do public service, because your experience as a critical human resource is still important. The Constitution provides a tenor for public office. Public office within the context of Article 190 of the Constitution. Go back to the memorandum that accompanied the Special Prosecutor Bill and other bills. Parliament was exercising its power in creating new and additional public service office. I've seen the Deputy Attorney General Labour to explain public office and public service. He would find no space. There is a public service. So what it simply means, Evans, it means that your grandmother or my grandmother tomorrow can be appointed chief executive, and the reference will be the mockery of the Supreme Court ruling, regardless of...
So on the back of that, your confidence has waned.
Fidelity to the law is important, not fidelity to the appointing authority or fidelity to please those appointing you. We will do what is needful, lawfully and legitimately. Let it be ignored. But the point is, we are stakeholders in the state called Ghana.
I hear you say that when it comes to the courts, your confidence is waning.
It's eroding.
It's eroding.
Not absolute, not total, but I'm beginning to look back with some disappointment that we rely on this independent adjudicator.
And that is the minority leader Harun Edrisu speaking on PM Express last night. I want to go to Parliament now, where there is some division over a motion that has been filed today by Mahama Yariga, MP for Boko Central. My colleague Joseph Gakpo is joining me on the telephone line right now. Joseph, this particular motion, Mahama Yariga told me first on PM Express last week, and then the minority leader confirmed last night that he had endorsed it for the Speaker to consider. Understand has been laid, but even before it comes for some debate, there's some controversy around it. Some minority members you've been speaking to are already questioning it, using words like it's mischievous and premature.
And in fact, in some of the conversations, the word useless has come up as some of the descriptions of this particular notice of motion coming from Mahama Yariga, and essentially he's asking that he be allowed by the Speaker of Parliament to move a motion on the floor and provide details on why he thinks that this particular CI should be rejected by Parliament. You know, this is coming at a time when we are actually expecting that the Statutory Legislation Committee, chaired by Dr. Dominic Ayine, will present its report to the House sometime soon. Per my count, that document, which was laid in Parliament, has actually done 10 days out of the 21 expected sitting days. So in the next 3 weeks or so, it could be maturing eventually. But even before the committee's report come, Mahama Yariga put in that motion on the day that Parliament resumed, that's on the 19th of May, and it's currently before the Speaker. It's at the Speaker's office, and it's awaiting a situation where the Speaker will fix a date and time for Mr. Yariga to then move the motion on the floor, back it with the necessary details that he has, and allow for MPs to debate it and eventually vote on it. And it requires that they get the vote of at least 2/3 of all members of Parliament before it will pass. But Patrick Yabuama, who is the MPP MP for Kaikwe Central, and Andrew Ejapa Mensah, who is the NPP MP for Second D, who are both lawyers, think that this motion will not fly, and it's virtually dead on arrival.
He's trying to run ahead of time, create mischief, create some confusion in the minds of Ghanaians. I think it's premature because I don't see the basis for his application and how he's going to succeed in this application. He's not going to succeed. So maybe it's part of the NDC's grand scheme of making the whole electoral process and our quest to have a peaceful general election come 2020, December 7th. Peaceful. One, he's not challenging the EC's power to amend the CI. He's not challenging it. He's just asking for a rejection. And what will be the basis for your rejection? We are all members. Ayaga is not a member of the Subsidiary Legislative Committee. We are members. We've sat down, we've gone through the CI. Unfortunately for the NDC, the chairman of the committee is a former Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Dominic Ayine. We sat through with EC officials 2 or 3 times. We were agreed. It's been laid and it's going through the constitutional process as set out by Article 11.7. So I don't understand the mischief that he's seeking to foment. There is no substance in what I read.
For you are determined to get this document approved, regardless of the objections that the minority MPs are raising?
I am determined to support every constitutional process as set out by the Constitution towards a free and a peaceful general election.
I don't see how this motion is going anywhere. In any event, what is the Electoral Commission seeking to do? They are seeking to amend sections of an existing constitutional instrument. What is the basis or the rationale that he proposes in his motion that would warrant Parliament annulling the regulation that has been placed before us? I don't see any such reason in his motion. I don't see this motion succeeding at all.
Thankfully, Mahama Yariga himself, MP for Boko Central, who filed the motion, joins us on the telephone line. Mr. Yariga, the question that you've been asked by your 2 colleagues who say this is either mischievous or premature is that they don't see the substance, the basis for making the demand you're making in this motion. What is it in there that should convince your other colleagues that is worth rejecting?
Thank you very much, Evans. I think that is the essence of our democracy. He wants to know what are the defects in the CI that I seek to have the Parliament reject. The only way he can get to know is to have the motion admitted and the debate will take place. When the debate takes place, he will see from our arguments in moving the motion and supporting the motion exactly what the problems are. So what I urge the NPP members is not to be afraid and not to be running away from the debate. They should allow the motion to be moved. After all, that's what we are paid to go and sit there and do. Move the motion, debate the motion, and the public will hear the debate and they'll be the best judges as to who is right in this matter. And Honorable Patrick spoke about the defects that I seek to cure, what amendments are being made, and etc. The reality when it comes to subsidiary legislation is that you cannot amend it once it is laid. So the only option is to have it rejected and withdrawn, because once it is laid, if there are 20 clauses and 2 clauses are defective, unlike an ordinary bill that you can amend the 2 clauses, correct them, and then add them to the 18, and then you have good 20 clauses. In the case of CIs and subsidiary legislation like LIs, you either accept the whole CI and LI or reject the whole CI and LI. That, unfortunately, is what we have done in our Constitution. So some provisions of the CI may be okay, but if there is an omission which is fundamental, or there is one provision that is defective, you don't have the luxury of just amending the same thing and then letting it pass. You will have to reject the whole thing so that they will take it back, redo it, and bring it, and then you can pass it with the amendments. So that is why I don't have an option but to say that let's reject the whole document, because that is what our Constitution has made provision for. Even though there are some provisions there that I may not have issue with, but because I have issue with the omission of others, my option...
Which others specifically?
Exactly.
Which others specifically?
The CI that they seek to amend provides that if you go to register, among documents that you could present to evidence your citizenship, your identity, and etc., is your birth certificate. Now, this new CI takes out your birth certificate. And Honorable Patrick Boama, being a lawyer, knows that the Constitution says in Article 42 that a citizen who is 18 years of age or above, of sound mind, is entitled to register. Now, the Constitution makes specific provision for the requirement of age eligibility. So all previous CIs that came made provision for you to bring your birth certificate, if you had one, to evidence your age and in some cases your nationality. So what is the rationale for this new CI taking out the birth certificate eligibility provisions? Because if anybody appeared before them, how will they know that he is 18 years of age or above when they say he cannot present his birth certificate?
Because the Ghana card will state his age. That is from the CI before you says that one or two cards that will be accepted, that and the passport, both of them will state your age.
How did the Ghana card get to know your age? How did the passport get to know your age? Tell me. I'm listening to you.
Andy Japamesa is on the line. I should ask him that for you because he's challenging the basis of this. Mr. Japamesa, you've heard him. He has a point, has he not? Hello, Mr. Japamesa.
Hello.
Yes. Did you hear Mahama Yaiga?
Fortunately, I didn't hear him quite clearly, but I'm sure that if you pose...
He asked a simple question. The CI currently gathering the days that he's filed a motion to reject. he raised a concern about the CI's exclusion of the birth certificate as a primary identification document in the registration. And he says, and I asked him that you don't need the age factor in there because the Ghana card and the passport, which are the two documents the CI is recognizing now for the registration, will state your age. And he's asked the question, how did the Ghana card and the passport get to know your age? He has a point there.
Let me just say good evening to your cherished listeners. First and foremost, I guess that it's important a motion is filed in Parliament, or at least submitted to the Speaker for consideration and admission for debate. It would have been useful for us to debate the motion before we discuss it in the media. Be that as it may, I mean, I have seen the EC statement that was issued in response to the NDC's press conference of last week, where they categorically stated in there that the birth certificate has ceased to be part of the requirement for obtaining electoral voters' ID card since 1995. What I know is that this CI significantly is seeking to do away with the voters' ID card as a requirement. Unfortunately, I have seen a copy of the motion that Mr. Mahama Yaraga has filed. But then again, unlike courts where you would be required to attach an affidavit in support of application, so we know the reasons why you are bringing that application. In the parliamentary proceedings, that is not required. An affidavit is not required. So I'm not aware of the rationale that he is putting across as a basis for the motion that he filed. But
based on what I narrated for you, which is one of the key reasons for asking you to reject it, doesn't he have a point? So that it excludes the birth certificate, yet it recognizes the Ghana card and the passport, and both documents. In fact, mainly for the passport, you need your birth certificate to get a passport.
Ivan, so what is his point? So because of that, the EC should include it in the existing CI and not take it out?
Definitely, why not?
So let him debate it on the floor. And then, if what he's saying holds water, I'm sure members of parliament would vote.
Personally, you don't think it holds water?
I don't think so at all. Because you see, the point is this: Electoral Commission, per my understanding, is seeking to do a new register afresh, and so they are doing away with the existing voters' ID card. Now, that is the CI that has been laid before Parliament. In addition to that, they are reconfirming the birth certificate. The Ghana card has been part of the requirement since 2012. So, really, I mean, I do not see what the issue with my friends in the NDC really are.
Mr. Ayega,
I don't get it.
Mr. Ayega, he says he still doesn't get it, and because they really, as he make the point, the Ghana card has always been there.
Yeah, definitely. The Ghana card, the national identification card, has always been there. I have no objection to the national identification card being there. I have no objection to the passport being there. Indeed, I have some disagreement when it comes to the passport, but it's a useful document that you can use as evidence of nationality, because a passport requirement acts as an economic obstacle, because you need to pay fees to obtain a passport, and not all Ghanaians can pay fees to obtain a passport. And your constitutional right to vote should not hinge on your ability to afford the fees for obtaining a passport. Now, the issue about my argument for a rejection of a CI is not only tied to what used to exist, but what I, as a member of parliament, think should be there to make it a better document. For instance, why are you taking out the previous voter ID cards issued by the Electoral Commission? Why is that not accepted as evidence that you are a citizen, you voted before, and indeed even the Supreme Court has indicated that holding a previous voter ID card should make us presume that you are a Ghanaian because you've been registered by the Electoral Commission and you have participated most likely in an election. For me, these are issues that I don't think should be taken out of the existing CI, and I think the birth certificate should be added to the amendments that are being proposed, so that we can have a better document that is more enabling of the rights of a citizen to be able to register and to vote as a citizen.
I mean, Ms. Ayaga, won't you concede even before this comes to the floor, and that's even a long if the Speaker agrees to even bring it in, that this is an exercise in futility, that you will lose this battle? They have more numbers than you do. This won't go anywhere.
But even
that well, if you assume that this is strictly a fight between the NPP and the NDC, and not the fight between members of parliament who seek to do the right thing vis-a-vis those who may not understand that what is about to happen is the wrong thing. If that is what is going to happen, definitely we won't be able to galvanize 2/3 of the House. But that is not the assumption based on which our democracy is supposed to function. Our democracy is supposed to function on the assumption that a good, healthy debate on an issue in Parliament will reveal all the pros and cons of that issue, so that members of Parliament in good conscience will vote. And if we vote and you vote the wrong outcome, and ultimately one day we will have to account, the records will show that it was brought to the attention of the country, it was debated, and yet a certain majority voted against what subsequently we find out to be where we ought to have voted for.
Let me bring in Mr. Japamesa, just for the sake of time. Mr. Japamesa, so are you approaching this with an open mind, or you've already taken the decision, as I guess some have said the MPP has already, that this motion is dead on arrival?
Well, look, I'm keeping an open mind. That's why I stated right at the outset that unlike courts where ordinarily we have been furnished with an affidavit in support to give the rationale for the motion, in parliamentary proceedings, we do not have an affidavit. So I don't know what it is that Mr. Mahama Yarega is canvassing. But of course, if he moves his motion, that is, if the Speaker admits, and I hope and wish that the Speaker does admit the motion, for him to move it and articulate his reasons on the floor of the chamber, then members will exercise their discretion in voting one way or the other. But see, my worry is this: the real or the essence of regulations that governs any activity that we undertake in this country is to either make room for people who are included or excluded, or IDs that are included or excluded. I recall that in 2017 December, when the National Identification Authority deemed it prudent to amend the identification requirements in the National Identification Register Act, they submitted an amendment bill to Parliament, which was debated and voted on by members of Parliament to exclude certain IDs from the NIA registration process. Mr. Mahama Ayarga himself voted in favor of the amendment to delete the NHIS card in particular. Now, fast forward 2020, the Electoral Commission says that, look, I'm embarking on a registration exercise. And I think that because issues have been raised in the past regarding the ID systems that were used to register in previous times, I am starting afresh so that I can erase all doubts that exist. So people going into register will know that the elections that we're going to have in December is one that is being carried out with a register that has been compiled afresh. You say that he should include the existing register. Doesn't that defeat the purpose for which the Electoral Commission, in their wisdom, have brought this guy to seek to exclude the existing register from from the identification requirements that I reported. So yes, by all means, it is right as a member of parliament to bring an application for determination by members of parliament. When he comes, we will look into it and listen to his arguments, and if we have to vote in favor of his motion, we will. If it has to be thrown out, then that's exactly what's going to happen.
I'm grateful, and the Ejapa Mensah, the NP for Secondary. Also, earlier you had Mahama Yariga, who is the MP for Boko Central. What's your take on that particular conversation? Send me a WhatsApp 02443404.